So in the studio, you'll see this in various videos or if they do a scan or whatever they're doing here, but we wanted to have multiple areas that are looking different for different things. So in the center of the room, we have a table where we can sit. So this is what it looks like the next day after we've basically built it, glued it all together, and we put the mortar in the cracks. This one we did with a little bit smaller crack. Time will tell whether or not it was good or not. I like how it looks. The mortar definitely went into the cracks a lot harder. It was just a lot harder to see to it. We got them full, but the premise is still the same. So we put it in, kind of forced that down into it, and then we wiped it all down with a sponge. It looks like it's all cloudy and stuff, but that'll wipe right off there. That's just dust. And then when you put the clear coat on, it just comes right back to that wet look that we like on it. So from here, all we got to do is wipe this down real good. And then we got to sand and fix all of our edges from these cut boards here. So we'll stain them, and we'll put probably just a coat of polyurethane on them just to shine them up before we dump our epoxy on. Have to do now, we decided to go with the weld look on these, so we're not going to be grinding these welds. Instead, we're just cleaning up around them, and we're going to leave that be there as part of the look. So all she has to do is kind of sand these now to kind of get rid of as much of the rust as we can and clean them up, and then we'll clear coat this, and then this will be ready. We went with angle iron up here this time instead of square tubing, just simply because as you've seen earlier, we ran out of the 2-inch square tubing. So I used 2x3 for this part, and then we just used angle on this. Still be a very strong table. It'll still have basically the same look, a little different than the ones we did up at BW. And behind it we have our feature wall, which is similar to the feature wall that we have up at BW Deli and Grill. So what I'll do is I'll build that up with 2x4s, literally just run them up and down so that I don't have to waste all of our pretty blocks that the girls work so hard to, with such great attitudes, to get cleaned up and painted, stained.
You have the wood block wall, which we decided from the get-go we were going to do that because we had all the leftover blocks from the last project, and we're like, we might as well use them.
When we were working on the wall here, my father decided to say that it would be a funny thing if we were to run out of those blocks and we'd have to tell Kendra she had to make more.
I hope we have enough, but I kind of hope we don't, so that I can tell Kendra that they have to make me some more.
She's not a very nice person.
Who's not a very nice person?
You. She'll be so mad. Why would you hope for that?
Because it'd make for good video.
In my opinion, that would be a bad idea because that would have put Kendra in a very bad mood, which is no fun. Because Kendra had to stain all those blocks and clear coat them all, which took days, and I might even say weeks.
It's
Are you willing to sacrifice your happiness for a good video?
Yeah. I'm sacrificing my happiness for a good video.
Very common in my family. We are very prone to, I don't want to say cause each other trouble, but we like to razz each other, give each other a hard time. I think deep down he probably didn't mean it, but there's a small part of him that maybe did, just because we do like to rile each other up. But it's like I say, it's all in good fun, and that's how we've always handled those situations. And we'll give Kendra a hard time about it. We'll even tell her we need to make more and get her all upset just cause. And believe it or not, we still have a pile more left over. So we probably could do a couple more walls in our future. We had the shiplap wall again, that most of that was left over from the deli as well, but because we had a little bit, like not as quite as much as we needed, we went ahead and used some flooring pieces actually to create the posts or columns that were very controversial.
Why are you looking at me like I'm from Mars? When you give me that look, I'm like, oh shit, this isn't.
I'm just wondering why you call them posts.
Of course, the BW sign was another one that we wanted, that they for sure wanted on the wall to add a little bit of texture and bring in the brand. And then it also has a corner shot. So right now you're getting that BW sign, but you're getting the area that we built to stand and do these interviews. So it has an area to display product, it has an area for me to stand, there's an area for us to sit individually, there's an area for us to sit as a group. And then the other wall was our chalkboard wall, which we haven't really used much, but we also have a dry erase board on that. On the opposite wall that's usually behind the cameras that you never see, that's where we got all of our sound stuff to make the room sound better.
We have, on the other side of that wall, we have a large warehouse area that some of our sign equipment is, so it's very loud stuff. So with the room closed off and these tiles put up, you can barely hear that equipment while it's running. So that helps out with the audio quality of the videos. And then we have a TV up there that we can kind of watch as we go along with some of these interviews, and we can react to certain videos that they want us to.
And it's also where we're going to be using our green screen. So kind of curious to see what the guys can do with that. I think green screens are cool, but the video guys think they're cheesy, so they drag their feet. But we're going to do something with a green screen one day, and hopefully it's going to be something really neat.
So like I say, it's kind of, everybody kind of came up with a little bit of ideas. For the most part, again, it probably was my dad. We just kind of said, hey, that looks good, let's do this, and kind of talked it through it, but it was kind of a joint effort for sure.
I'm gonna be honest, I'm not 100% sure who designed the whole thing. I know the camera guys were involved in their technical parts, I don't really know. Dad kind of outsourced the signs to us daughters. My job was to get that sign in the corner, which is not done yet. I blame my mother. And then Mandy was the one who made this sign here in the back.
Plan and design for the studio would pretty much be Shane. Generally, whenever we have projects, he's the one that's going to come up with the ideas for that project. So yeah, it was him.
It's all a bit murky to me. Whenever you ask me a question like that, everything in my brain is I did. But I know I talked to a lot of people, but the overall idea of what we wanted to do, it just kind of came together. I think Mandy threw in some ideas on what to do with what wall where.
I didn't have a ton to do with the planning. Like I say, I was there a little bit discussing a few of the walls. Like I told him I wanted a wall with a shelf that we could put merchandise on. I helped as far as like creating the logo sign. I got all the pieces put together. The dry erase sign, I got all the pieces put together. And then of course I was here for install. So I helped install everything. But I was just kind of a part of, I guess, a little bit of all of it.
My role in this room was mostly just fabricating the pieces for everything. And then when we put it all together, and also it was also my job to get all of the parts we needed.
The things that were involved in as far as remodeling the room would be the wall behind me here with his posts or columns, whatever on them. Helped cut the pieces for the scrap plywood behind the Chinese virus wall. Helped build and paint the table and the tabletop in the room. I helped gut the room. It used to be called the War Room, which is what they had for the sign company. We had to gut it before we could remodel it, so I helped there. And I installed some shelves on the wall, and then they're just a simple rail system on the ceiling to hang lights and whatnot, microphones and different things.
Where I would say it was me, honestly, it was a group effort. Everybody was there while I did it, but if I don't move, they just sit there and stare at me. If I move, then I can get something out of them, so go team.
I wouldn't say there was really a hard part to this job, but one of the tasks I would say that took the longest would be this wall here, because it's actually a full steel sheet on that wall, and so I had to be the one to plasma cut the holes out in the right place.
Now that the studio's done, what do I think of it? Honestly, it turned out great. I'm thrilled with it. I'm sure we're going to find some things later that we missed or we want to do different, and we can change that. The things that I like the best about it, honestly, are what we did to the ceiling, which Quentin did that. It was my design, but it was his work, and it was a lot of work.
It's a simple process. You got a little bit of math work out, but that's not difficult. It's just time consuming. In a room that's not quite square, your truss isn't really where it's supposed to be, where the math would tell it that it is. So you'll measure it out, and you're like, oh, it's not there, so you got to go a little this way. Oh, it's not there, you got to go a little this way. There it's there. So it's time consuming, but simple process.
But the fact that it gives us the ability to hang all this stuff, you guys don't see it, but there is stuff all around me right now. And it just hangs from the ceiling and allows us to set up these productions without a whole lot of effort and tripods and everything else laying all over the place. That's what I like the most, and I honestly think it turned out really good. I'm really, really happy with how that portion of it turned out and the way that we came up with doing it. We probably should do a how-to on it. It actually turned out so good, and it's all just stuff that we went and bought. I was going to build it. Instead, I did a little research, and I really like where we landed. As far as way things look, what do I like the best? It's got to be the feature wall in the center. I mean, that's where we put all of the effort. We built another table like the ones we have up at BW.
I would say my favorite part of the room is the table, because it's such a nice table.
Studio turned out really well, honestly. Better than what I thought it would. I like the sign that they built, the blacksmith sign there behind me. This Chinese virus wall looks good. You know, it looks very similar to the wall that's at the deli, so you got that going on. Of course, the tables look nice. Again, same design that we put into the deli. And then his laminated floorboard wall looks good too.
Like I said, it actually works really well. Again, it's always with anything, you don't really know for sure how it's going to turn out. It's all just in your head. But as far as the functionality, I think it turned out really, really well. Everything kind of works well together, but yet you have individual spaces that will work for different backdrops. And honestly, my favorite feature is probably going to be the dry erase. I think it's going to be really fun to be able to have that board that you can get up there and draw on and sketch on and show different things. So I think that'll be really cool.
The functionality is by far my favorite part. The fact that we can do all of these different interviews in a real professional environment, and it's great.